I've been watching countless reviews about this new Avatar movie, and nobody's talking about the most important part of it. But we're going to get to the bottom of that today. What's up, my dude? Your friendly neighborhood Tony here, and that's right, today we are going to talk a little bit about the latest James Cameron joint, Avatar: The Way of Water. Now, as I do with all my reviews, we're going to go over a little bit of information about the movie itself, then I'll tell you the things that I really liked about it, the pros, the things I didn't like, the cons, and then finally, whether or not I recommend you go and spend your hard-earned money to see this movie in theaters. And this is going to be totally spoiler-free right up until the very end, but I'll be sure to let you know, it's just that there is something about this movie that I have to talk about. And it's probably going to change the way that you look at one of the main characters. Avatar: The Way of Water is brought to you, of course, by legendary filmmaker James Cameron and is the direct sequel to the 2009 movie also called Avatar. And in this movie, we pick back up with Jake Sully, who is now in full Na'vi form and has started his own family, when the Sky People, or the humans in this case, return to Pandora with a mission of not only expanding their operations, but more specifically hunting down Jake Sully and his family. In Avatar: The Way of Water, Sam Worthington is returning to reprise his role as Jake Sully, which is kind of cool to see him back. I really haven't seen him in a lot of movies lately, but this is definitely his big role. You also have Zoe Saldana. This time, she's blue. Shout out to Gamora. You also have Sigourney Weaver and Stephen Lang coming back for this movie with a new addition, although not necessarily to James Cameron's world, but Kate Winslet makes an appearance in a pretty big role. Now, this movie has been in the works for 13 years, which is absolutely insane. And in that time, there have been a lot of people that have been eagerly anticipating it to come out, many of which definitely want to see it succeed and absolutely loved the original, but there are those that just didn't really like the original. So where does this one fall in place? Well, I'll start off with my pros. First up, the most obvious thing, this movie is the most visually stunning theater experience I've ever had. If we're talking just purely technologically, James Cameron obviously spared no expense in bringing this to life. And I know recently James Cameron has taken a few jabs at Marvel movies and comic book movies, and as much as I absolutely love those and I will go and watch any new Marvel or DC movie that comes out, it's movies like this that really push the medium forward, specifically when it comes to technology. Now, of course, that's not to crap on any of the CG artists that have been working on a lot of these Marvel and Disney movies, but the simple truth of the matter is, because James Cameron is able to take his time and take a lot of time to work on these movies, we're able to push technology and specifically CG elements forward to a degree that we've never seen before. So yeah, surprise, surprise, Avatar 2 is a visual spectacle. Bet you didn't see that coming. It's also very long. I believe it's 3 hours and 10 minutes, 3 hours and 12 minutes, something like that. But I will say, as a pro, it doesn't feel that long. The movie is so well paced that you really don't notice as it's getting into that third hour. Now, of course, thankfully, I didn't have to use the bathroom while I was watching this movie, because then I probably would have felt it. But just as far as pacing is concerned, and this is something I talk about a lot in my movie reviews, he nailed it in this one. The movie does start off, I think, a bit slow. Of course, it's reintroducing you to the world of Pandora and to all these characters, but as the movie continues, it builds and builds in its tension and excitement right up into the final act, which gets insane. The pacing of that final act, everything that's going on, has you at the edge of your seat, and it just builds to this beautiful crescendo. Now, as far as the storytelling is concerned, because it's not all just visual spectacle, as we all know, the story of Avatar is a pretty basic plot. It's something that we've seen time and time again. And a lot of the characters might fall into certain tropes, but I still really enjoyed all of the characters and all the time that we spent with them. Even though you might perceive them as being kind of one-dimensional at times, they're just really well written and you believe that they are who they claim to be. Also, James Cameron is a master of having an idea, a concept specifically for him when it comes to nature and man's interaction with nature and preservation of nature, and weaving that into a story not unlike what Hayao Miyazaki does in a lot of the Studio Ghibli films. All of those movies almost entirely are about man versus nature and about the preservation of nature. And James Cameron does the exact same thing in these Avatar movies, but he does so in a manner that even though you see what's happening, you see the message he's trying to get across, it doesn't feel preachy. And it really moves you and connects you to what's going on. Now, of course, no movie is perfect, so I do have a few cons that I want to go over, one of which I kind of touched on before, and that is that the core of the story is pretty basic. Of course, this is something that you saw in countless reviews of the original Avatar, but we've seen this tale before, whether it's in something like Pocahontas or Dances with Wolves or my personal favorite, The Last Samurai. This is a story that's been told time and time again. But to that, I would argue there's only so many stories that can be told. How many action movies or comedies or love stories have we seen that we still love? So if you're looking for a movie to be entirely unique, you're going to have maybe 5 movies that you like, because the rest are all just going to be different versions of that. So really, it doesn't come down to whether or not the story is entirely its own thing, but rather, are they able to take these tropes and turn them into something unique and fun and interesting and exciting that grabs your attention and merits you going back and rewatching it? And I think in this case, he definitely did. This, to me, stands atop all of those other movies of the same ilk. Now, I do also want to touch on a couple of the more technical things about this movie, specifically the 3D and the high frame rate. Now, I did not watch it in 3D. I don't watch 3D movies. I get really bad motion sickness, so my version was just the regular 2D version of the movie that I saw. However, I have seen a lot of reviews about people that have seen it in 3D, and it sounds to me like they all loved it. So if that's your thing, definitely check it out. But I will say, as a person who just watches 2D versions of movies, I thought it looked great. And as far as the high frame rate is concerned, for those that don't know, most movies are shot in 24 frames per second. But in this movie, they had several scenes that they bumped it up to 48 frames per second, I think specifically in a lot of the action sequences. And if I'm being honest, I didn't really notice much of a difference there. So I don't know if it was just my showing or if it was just my messed up eyes that can't perceive certain things. But to me, it looked great either way, and it wasn't jarring in any way at all. So do I recommend this movie? Yeah. Yeah, obviously. Absolutely. Of course. This is the reason to go to the movie theaters. This is why movie theaters exist, to watch these massive spectacle films. Do I think this movie is going to do as well as the original Avatar? No, I don't think so. But I do recommend that everyone who is a film fan or just wants to have a good time in the theaters, go out and watch this one. Okay, now, full spoiler warning. In the next few seconds, I'm going to tell you the one thing about this movie that really kind of threw me for a loop, and it's really strange that no one has been talking about this. Okay, you ready? Spoilers, here we go. There's a scene at the end of the movie where one of Zoe Saldana's kids, although it's not really her biological kid, it's an adopted Na'vi kid, is being held hostage. And in order to get the kid back, Zoe Saldana's character threatens to murder Spider, who is this human child that has kind of been raised around their village. He was abandoned back when the humans left in the first movie. And he's kind of been like this neighborhood kid that her kids grew up with. And she just flat out attempts to murder him in order to get this other kid back. Now, I understand the relationships there might be a little different, but that's wild. You're just gonna straight up kill this kid? And then after the fact, they basically make it as if nothing happened. They're happy-go-lucky. They go about their business. Everybody's just a great family again. I don't know about you, but I feel like that's going to be coming up on Christmas morning. Like, hey, remember that time you almost murdered me? I don't know. That's just something that really stood out to me that I haven't heard anybody talking about. So let me know if that's something that you noticed when you watched this movie. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on it. But I think that's going to be it for me. Those are my thoughts on Avatar: The Way of Water. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. This is a big one, and I want to hear what you have to say about it. Also, if you want to see more of my movie reviews, trailer reactions, ranking videos, all that good stuff, make sure you subscribe. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. Be good.